this is not something that I learned from just a book. These are things that I came to be a part of Pastor Benny's staff in September of 1999. This September, I'll be at 24 years. And I came as a young kid to be a youth pastor, part-time, didn't know anything, had no business being in ministry at all. And the longer I was here, I think the more they realized we have made a grave mistake. But they couldn't get rid of me then. But I came, and I tell people, Pastor Benny really kind of just raised me as a young person. I'd only had one other job in my life. That was working at Chick-fil-A. And I was still just didn't have a lot heading in the right direction. I didn't have a lot of things I knew, but I did have a heart to serve the Lord. And I knew clearly, even way back 24 years ago, that God was calling me to serve Pastor Benny in whatever way he needed. I wasn't specific. I didn't have a calling to a specific spot in the church or a specific title. I just knew I was called to serve Pastor Benny. It just didn't matter to me. Whatever he needed me to do, I felt like that was what God wanted me to do. And so that calling has never changed. 24 years later, I still feel the same way. I'm not attached to a title. I don't care about the titles. It's just, what can I do to serve him and to help him go farther and help him accomplish more, because I believe that God sent us a great pastor. And I think all he needs for us to do is rally around him, help him serve in any way we can to accomplish more for Christ. So these 20 lessons are lessons that I don't even begin to say that I've got them all whipped, but they are things that are a part of our DNA. And they came from his life, out of his life, and out of just who he is. I'm not saying he's perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but these 20 things he does do pretty well. And as I tell them, our people will know and acknowledge. And those 20 things have become our culture. And I would tell you, it's not magic. It's not a magic formula for your church, but it will work. If you will institute, practice, develop, work on these 20 things becoming a part of your DNA and the culture of your church, I promise your church will see growth and reward as a result of it. So let's get into it, because we got 20 of them. We got to move fast. Step number 1 of those 20 lessons is have a whatever it takes attitude. The first day I walked in the door, Pastor Benny gave me a keychain. He said, I want to give you a keychain which has your job description on it. And I was like, oh, okay. And he handed me the keychain, and the keychain said, whatever it takes. And I was like, oh, that's neat. No, seriously, what really do you want? He's like, no, that is what I want you to do. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes every single day to accomplish ministry, I want you to do that. So whenever you're cleaning a toilet and you think that's not my job, no, you go back to, no, my job is actually whatever it takes. Whenever you're parking cars, whenever you're mopping a floor, whenever you're cleaning up, throw up, or whatever it is that you've got to do in your job or your role, you realize that that is your job. It is whatever it takes. I heard this quote. It said, if serving is beneath you, then leading is above you. If serving is beneath you, then leading is above you. We should never have the phrase, that's not my job, in our vernacular. That's not something that we should ever say, regardless of what your job is. And I've seen that from Pastor Benny on down. I've seen him paint the gymnasium floor on his hands and knees. I've seen him seal coat the ceiling of the Butler building, or the top of the roof. We did it one time in July. It was so hot and miserable. I was literally seeing black spots, and we're out there with mops and sealant, and it literally just didn't matter. We were doing whatever it took, whenever it took it, and it was just painful. But a team with this attitude, I can tell you, if your team has the whatever it takes attitude, it's impossible to stop, and success almost always follows it. If your team, if it doesn't matter who gets the credit and you're willing to do whatever it takes, your team will succeed. Number 2, hard work, or work hard, excuse me. I got it backwards, but it works either way. Work hard. I heard this quote, nothing in your life will work until you do. If you're unwilling to work hard, nothing in your life will work, because nothing in your life comes easy. Anything worth having, anything nice has a price. And the price is working hard. Every day, getting up and working hard. I heard this quote, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And so, hey, listen, a lot of times we rest on our talent, or we rest on our abilities, or we rest on our giftedness. What would happen if the talented also combined a strong work ethic and they worked hard? We could do greater things. I think a lot of problems with churches today is lazy pastors. Pastors that just don't want to work. They don't want to get out. They don't want to do the hard work of the ministry. They don't want to go and visit the people. They don't want to get out in the community. They want to sit back and get mad when they don't come see them. We've got to work hard. Bottom line is, if you're lazy and you don't have a sense of urgency, you're not going to accomplish much, period, whatever you do. Number 3, be loyal. Be loyal. Pastor Benny will always tell us that loyalty is the #1 quality that he looks for. If you don't have loyalty in a teammate, loyalty up and loyalty down, you don't have anything. If your people, your staff, your volunteers, your people closest to you, your leaders of your church, if they're not loyal to you and loyal to your vision and loyal to the mission that God's called your church for, then they're not supposed to be there. Because I always tell them, if you can't be loyal to Pastor Benny, then go be loyal somewhere else. Go find somewhere that you can be loyal. Because if everything you're doing, well, I feel like I need to fight Pastor. I feel like I need to straighten Pastor out. Or I need to set the vision straight. This can't be right. If that's the way you feel, then God's not calling you here. God's calling you somewhere else, because God's not the author of confusion. He's not the author of confusion. Because Proverbs 18:24 tells us that a real friend sticks closer than a brother. Listen to this quote. I love this quote about loyalty. It says, "Don't tell me what they said about me. Tell me why they were so comfortable to say it around you." Don't tell me what they said about me. Tell me why they were so comfortable to say it around you. I'm telling you, there's few things that will get somebody riled up quicker than if they come to you to gossip on somebody else, than if you'll grab their hand and say, "Why don't we go talk to that person and tell them how you feel right now?" I bet they never come to you again. I bet they don't. Because they were coming to you because they thought your ear was a trash can. And if you'll stop letting your ear be a trash can, and you stop participating in the prayer request, when people want to just pray for so-and-so, I think they're having a marriage problems. Well, they're just gossiping. Like, we need to stop it. We need to be loyal to people, loyal to our pastors, loyal to the vision of the church. Ben Franklin said it this way. He said, "We must hang together, or we will surely hang separately." We support one another both publicly and privately. Number 4, be intentional. Be intentional. If you're going to grow, you have to be intentional, because nothing worthwhile happens accidentally. Nothing worthwhile happens accidentally. Now, this is an area, to be honest with you, I have to work at. There's personalities that are more intentional than others. Mine just so happens to be one where I have to really work at being intentional. I have to have help. I have to set reminders. I have to put calendar reminders. I have to layer my life with ways to not forget things and to be intentional. And I'm telling you that it can be done. No matter, you say, "Well, I'm just not good at it." Well, you can get better at it. It's not okay just to say, "I'm not good at it." That's not a good enough excuse. It's like saying, "Well, I just don't like people, but I'm in ministry." You better get better at it. Like, if you don't like people and you're in ministry, you either get out of the ministry or get better at it and work at it. Because people, that is ministry. You can't not like people and be in ministry. And you have to learn to be intentional, which means you got to plan ahead. You can't be so busy working in it that you can't work on it. You got to plan ahead, think in advance, prepare. Don't just have a goal, have steps to achieving that goal. As Pastor Benny said earlier today, he talked about having that goal and making it public, telling somebody about it. And it's important when we tell somebody about our goal, it puts it in motion. It holds us accountable to have steps of, to be action-oriented and intentional in our processes. But not only that, number 5, we need to pursue excellence. Pursue excellence. Why not be the best? I don't know anybody that is in the position where they feel like, "Hey, I'd like to be average. I'd like for our church just to be ordinary." Like, I don't think anybody feels that way. I'd like for when people come into our church, they to kind of feel like, "It's okay." Or whatever organization you're a part of. If you're a part of a business or you own a business, you want to be excellent. What, don't you want to be excellent? Doesn't God deserve our best? Doesn't he deserve his house to be excellent? When you walk through the doors of the church, there's some doors of the church you walk through and you step back in time 70 years. And it's like, what's happened? But that's not how we live at home. We like the nicer things at home. We like excellence at home. We don't like dirty floors at home. I hope you don't. If you do, I don't want to come to your house to eat. But we like excellence. Why not pursue excellence and pursue being the best? Because listen, Pastor Benny's philosophy has always been the same. If we can't do it well, how about we just don't do it at all? Like if we can't do it well, let's just wait. I remember we were going to stream. We were going to start the streaming process, and we were going to invest into cameras, and we were talking about this process years ago of getting into streaming and begin to broadcast our services. And from the very beginning, Pastor Benny had the same perspective. I said, well, it's very expensive. He said, well, I don't care. And I said, well, if we're going to do it right, it's going to cost a lot of money. He said, well, find out how much it's going to cost us, and then let's not do anything until we get that much money to do it right. Because I don't want to go, he said, I never want to be one of those pastors that's online and it not look our best. I want it to be our very best and to push to be the very best that we can be. And that's always been his philosophy, is to pursue excellence. Is to pursue excellence in everything that we do. Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A, said this. He told his board one time, he said, if we get better, our customers will demand that we get bigger. If we'll just focus on getting better, our customers will demand that we get bigger. What do you and your team need to do? Focus on getting better. How can we get better? How can we get better? Because if you're going to be excellent, you've got to be observant. You got to pay attention to the details. You got to sweat the small stuff. That's the way I like to say it. Sweat the small stuff. Because just like Solomon told us, he said it's the little foxes that spoil the vines. It's the little things and the piling up of the little things that end up costing us in our services. We tell people that if they don't have a good experience driving to church, and then they get in the parking lot and they have a bad experience and they can't find a parking spot, and then they get out of the car and nobody greets them, and it's raining and nasty and wet, and then they get inside and they don't get a bulletin, they don't know where the bathrooms are, they're not greeted when they get inside, nobody helps them find a seat, and then they finally fight and they sit down and somebody comes up to them and says, that's my seat, get up. And then they have to move to another place and they finally sit down. Guess what? It doesn't matter what Pastor Benny preaches on that day. They're already done. All they're thinking about is how quick can I get out of this place and never come here again. You see, we've got to pursue excellence in everything we do. We do that by number 6, we evaluate and reevaluate. We evaluate and reevaluate. And this is just encouraging you that every week you should have meetings with your team or your people or whatever body that helps you lead your church or your organization. You need to have meetings to evaluate what you're doing. And that's both what you're doing right, celebrate the things. Hey, what are we doing? What are we doing great? What are we doing? What are people talking about? What are the things that we've done well this week? It doesn't even have to be over the last year. I'm saying immediate evaluations. What are we doing right this past week, over the last week? What have we done well? What are some wins that were accomplished Sunday or in your work week or whatever you're evaluating? But also you've got to critique what you've done wrong. You've got to be comfortable enough and in a setting comfortable enough to critique what you failed at. Every single week, we fail at all kinds of things. We have mess ups because we're human and we fail. But we try to learn from those mess ups. We try to make sure that we're looking at them and we're not ignoring them. We're not sticking our head in the sand, acting like it didn't happen. We talk about it. We work on it. We strategize. We try to put procedures in place so that we never do that again. And listen, here's another big thing. Try not to get offended. If there's a spirit of defensiveness, that's the biggest issue with evaluating, is because most of the time when you're evaluating, especially, now listen, if you're celebrating somebody, they don't mind you going on and on and on. But if you're critiquing them, you've already said too much. Because I'm offended, I'm hurt, this is personal. It was what I did, I messed up. Try not to be defensive. Try to realize that, hey, we're attacking the problem. The person's not the problem 99.9% of the time. 99.9% of the time it was an honest mistake, or it was just a slip. It wasn't something cataclysmic. We don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but we do have to realize, hey, let's don't be defensive when we evaluate and when we reevaluate. Once you evaluate it once, that's not enough. You got to keep evaluating. All right, number 7, establish discipline. Establish discipline. See, motivation gets you going, but discipline is what keeps you growing. Motivation, it does get you going, but it doesn't keep you growing. Discipline keeps you growing. Pastor Benny would always and has always said, what begins with desire will be maintained by discipline. What begins with desire, a marriage begins with desire. It's maintained by discipline. It's maintained. Now, long after the lovey-dovey feeling's gone, you maintain that relationship based off of a covenant that you made with somebody. And you maintain that with discipline. And it's important for us to realize that we're going to have discipline in our life. Listen to this. Discipline is doing what you really don't want to do so that you can do what you really want to do. I'll say it again. Discipline is doing what you really don't want to do. Sometimes you got to do what you really don't want to do, and you make yourself do it. Discipline is doing what you really don't want to do. Why? So you can do what you really want to do. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments. If you've got goals, if they're ever going to become accomplishments, discipline's going to be the map that gets you there. It'll be the road that you take to get you to the accomplishments. So not only establish discipline, but number 8, be generous. Be generous. This is really the first attribute that I really ever remember having an impact on me from Pastor Benny. I was just a young kid, 20 years old when I came to the church. I vividly remember nobody ever bought my meal ever, except for my mama, and I felt like she kind of had to. You know, she birthed me. So I was a college student, and you know, at the college level, you're broke as a joke. Don't have any money. You know, if we were going to, now you can't eat anywhere for cheap, but you could go to Taco Bell way back then, and it was like, you could get out of there for $5, you eat like a king. You know, now you can't buy a drink hardly for $5. But so we would go to Taco Bell, and I remember this, as bad as it is. I remember going with my friends, and I would get if I had $5, I would get my food, and I would go sit down and eat, and some of them wouldn't have money, and I'd just eat in front of them. Because I'd be like, I guess you ain't got nothing. Like, not my problem. Like, I got $5. Like, that's all I've got. I didn't know anything about being generous. The first person to ever buy my meal outside of my mother and father was Benny Tate. And I remember being a kid, and I remember working here, and we went to lunch, and I remember him buying my food and what a profound impact it had on my life. I always thought pastors get the T-Rex arms when the bill comes out. Like, oh, let me get it. You know, like, let me get it, I got it. You know, but their arms are broke. They can't reach all the way out there. You know what I'm saying? That's how pastors historically are. I'm serious. I've seen it a lot. Like, you know, everybody's eating. The lady says, you know, they put the check down, and then the pastor's like, oh. And then the other guy grabs it, and he's like, oh, I didn't mean for you to do that. Yes, I did. You know, like, I didn't even bring my wallet, you know. But Pastor Benny wasn't that way. And he wasn't that way towards me. And I just thought, what an important lesson, what an important attribute to be generous, to give. Jesus said it this way. He said, give, and it will be given unto you. That your blessings in life are attached to your generosity. I mean, if you're not going to give, if you don't give of yourself, give of your time, give of your resources, don't be surprised if nothing's given to you. Because we give so that it will be given unto us. We don't give so that it will be, but we give and it will be. Adrian Rogers said this. He said, you can sing all you want about how you love Jesus. You can have crocodile tears in your eyes, but the consecration that doesn't reach your purse has not reached your heart. He said, the consecration that doesn't reach your purse has not reached your heart. What did he say there? He said, you can't love and not give. I can't say I love Jesus and not give. I mean, try that with your kids, your grandkids. Oh, I love my grandbabies so much, but I don't give nothing to them. I'm not going to buy their food. I'm not buying them anything. Oh, I love my kids. Well, if you do, you give. And it's a biblical principle that our heart and our treasure are attached in either direction. Where a man's heart is, there his treasure is, and where a man's treasure is, there his heart is. It's both directions, because you cannot love and not give. You can't convince me that you love God with all your heart and you don't tithe. You just can't. I'm sorry. You don't. You don't love him with all your heart. You don't. Because if you did, you would realize it was all his and he gave it to you in the first place. And if I said to anybody in the room today, I'm willing to give you $100 if you'll just give me $10 back, everybody in the room would take that deal. Because you'd realize you didn't have it to begin with. So you'll take the 90 just to give back the 10, because it wasn't yours to begin with. And when we attach that, it's not that difficult. See, we've got to be generous. The only way to fight greed in your life is to give. Number 9, embrace change. Embrace change. Obviously, the message never changes. It can't change. The gospel message of Jesus Christ can never change, and it should never change. But we know the methods must. We must continue to adapt the methods. It's what we do in kids' church. Pastor Tommy is our kids pastor, and he's working with children. He doesn't deliver the message in the same way that Pastor Benny does. The methods change. Our youth ministry, the methods change. Adults, times, cultures change. We have to change. We have to embrace it. We have to look at it and face it and say, change is inevitable, and we must keep changing. Don't hold on too tight to your own preferences. Because most of the time, the reason we're obstinate to change is because we prefer something different. And we hold to our preferences. We hold to what we prefer. But I would tell you to hold loosely to your own preferences and ask the question, what's best for the future of our church? What's best for the future of our organization? You know, Blockbuster apparently wasn't embracing change, and they are no more. I used to love walking into a big old Blockbuster and going row by row and looking at all the movies and the new releases and the VHS tapes and the DVDs, and when those were brand new. And I remember seeing it. It was just an impressive store to walk into. Now, the one that was in my town is a mattress store, because Blockbuster is out of business. It's gone because it did not embrace change. I want to tell you, if you change something and nobody gets upset, you've not changed anything. If you've changed something, you say, boy, I'm proud of myself. Hey, honey, I changed that. If nobody's upset, you didn't change anything. Because real change is never easy. People are going to gripe. Some people have the spiritual gift of griping, and they're going to gripe. They're going to cackle, but it's always necessary. Change is always necessary, so embrace it. Number 10, never stop learning. Never stop learning. Invest into growing yourself. You got to invest into growing yourself, and by that I mean read books, whatever it takes. Listen to podcasts, or go back to school, or do what you're doing today. Go to places where you can learn and absorb and network and get closer to people that are growing or ahead of you, and you can grow. Because listen, a rubber band's not any good until it's stretched. If you got a rubber band, it's pointless until you stretch it. And we're the same way. We need to be stretched. We need somebody that's constantly stretching us and urging us to go farther. Albert Einstein said, once you stop learning, you start dying. Once you stop learning, you start dying. And I believe that. Number 11, lead by example. Pastor Benny has always led by example. I told you about the whatever it takes attitude. And he's led that by example. There is nothing in our job sets as far as, there are some things that maybe he didn't know how to do, but it's not because he's unwilling to do it. I mean, I'm telling you, from striping the parking lot, the lines that are in the parking lot, Dr. Benny Tate has been down on the ground striping it. He's done everything within the church that he physically can do or able to do because he's willing to do it and because he was going to lead by example. Because it's been his heart and his philosophy that, hey, I'm going to lead from the top down and the culture is going to be set based off of who I am. If the senior pastor doesn't lead by example, then you're going to have a bunch of others that are unwilling to do the same. You have to lead by example. The three most impactful ways to lead people, here they are, 1, 2, and 3, is by example, and by example. That's the top three. Pastor Benny says it like this. He said the most powerful leadership principle that people see is monkey see, monkey do. And it is. It's a powerful leadership principle. If you're not friendly with the people, don't be surprised if your staff aren't friendly. Don't be surprised. Listen, if your culture of your church is not welcoming, it might be because you're not. Look in the mirror. Decide, am I leading by example? Never ask your people to do something that you have not already done or unwilling to do, because we lead by example. Number 12, smell like sheep. Smell like sheep. Pastors should be with their people, just like shepherds are with sheep. We've gone too far when we start heading towards the pastor's the CEO, and he needs to be distant from the people, and we need to make it where he's never around the people. He needs to be way away from the people. I mean, you got to smell like sheep. If we're going to pastor them, God's called us to be with them. The shepherds walked the hillsides with the sheep. They were with the sheep so that the sheep could know their voice, so that the shepherd could know the sheep, could know their tendencies. They're together. Shepherds smell like sheep. And we say this, listen, when they can't come to you, go to them. It's one thing to just sit in the church and gripe about all the people that are not coming to church. And I would ask you, have you went to them? I remember during COVID, our philosophy and Pastor Benny's philosophy was, hey, listen, if they can't come to us, we're going to go to them. And over about a 9-week stretch while we were shut down, we visited about 900 homes. And you say, well, gosh, how would they allow that with COVID? People were thrilled to see us. They were excited to see us. I mean, we would go and we'd take guitars and we would sing on the front porch, and we'd say hello, or we'd take them a gift, and we'd just stop by just to check on them, because we knew that, hey, if they can't come to us, we're going to go to them. And if they're in the hospitals or in the nursing homes or they're in shut-in facilities, listen, it's important for us to get out of the church facility and go to where they are. Don't be surprised if they're unwilling to come see you if you're unwilling to go see them, because we need to smell like sheep. Number 13, care for people. Care for people. There's a novel thought. You think pastors should care for people? Yes, I do. We do. We care for them. I care for them. That's why I preach a Sunday. Every Sunday I preach that Bible message. That's why I care about them. Well, thank you, Pastor, but they need to know you care about them outside the pulpit. They need to know you care about them up close. You care about their hurts and their pains. You care about what they're going through. You care about the death of a loved one. You care about a surgery or a procedure that they're having. Because we heard a quote, and it said, a church will not grow beyond its ability to care for its people. And Pastor Benny added the words, and why should it? A church will not grow beyond its ability to care for its people. And we say, why should it? Why would we pray and ask God to send us more people? God, would you bless our church? God, send us more people just so we can neglect them, so that we cannot care about them, so that we cannot love on them, so that we cannot be the hands and feet to them, God, so that I could do less and you could do more. Why would we pray that prayer? Why would we ask God to send us more people if we're not prepared to care for them? You want to grow? Grow your care. Start becoming better at caring for your people, and God will send you more people to be loved on. Because by this, all men will know you are my disciples, if you preach a good message. No, if you love one another. If we love one another. See, we got to care for people. The church should be a hospital for the hurting. And when everyone else is walking out, that's when the church needs to be walking in. Number 14, we need to find a need and meet it. Find a need and meet it. I would ask ask you, what are the needs of your congregation? What are the needs of your community? What are the needs of the people that are a part of your business or your church or your organization? What are their needs? It's important to know, because you need to find a need, what the needs are, because I promise you God's assigned you to the need. If it's unaddressed, if there are people in your community that are hurting from a specific area or a specific purpose or a specific reason, and there's nobody addressing that or addressing it well, then it's a clue God's probably assigning you to it. He's probably tipping you off that he wants you to be an answer to that problem. Because see, if you see a true need, the church needs to do something about it. It's not the government's job. It's not the federal government's job or the state government or the local government. It's the church's job. See, when people have issues, when they have problems, when they need to know where to turn, they need to know that the church is where I turn. I turn to God, and the church is pointing up. It's Jesus that you need. When they come into you, you point them to him, and the whole world is looking to God, and that's the way it's supposed to be. That we find out what the needs are, and we fill those needs. We meet those needs with Jesus. Robert Schuller said this. He said, anybody who succeeds is helping people. He said, the secret to success is to find a need and fill it, find a hurt and heal it, find a problem and solve it. You see, but I want to give you one caveat to this. Don't start it unless it's a real need. And listen, if somebody else is already doing it and they're doing it well, don't think you got to start one too. Now, we've learned this lesson really the hard way. You know, everybody has got to have the same things. And if one church down the street's doing it, well, why aren't we doing it? Well, here's a thought. Just support them. Just support what they're doing. If there's a church down the street from you that's doing a great job with a food pantry, you don't have to start your own. Then you're both competing. Why don't you just join together, and then you can be stronger as a result? You can say, hey, we in the church down the street have partnered together. Yeah, but they're the Presbyterian church. It doesn't matter. Well, they're not in the same denomination we're in. Who cares? I don't think any of y'all are Congregational Methodist. And we don't even know what that is. But we're all here. Why don't we work together and accomplish something great together? Why don't we all, listen, if you can support that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father but by him, we can worship together. Because past that, I'm not really worried about all the rest. We can figure that out when we get to heaven, and he'll say you were all wrong. You got chasing other things, and you lost focus on me. And I would encourage us, hey, find a need and meet it, and partner with whoever you have to in order to accomplish more. Number 15, start with yes. Pastor Benny has always believed I can. I think it was just Sunday he held up a can, or what, if it wasn't Sunday, I can't remember, guys. Was it Sunday? He had the can, and he said, this is my I can. It's got a big I on it, and he does. He's had that for years. I can't even remember how long I've seen the I can, because that's where he starts. I can. We can. Together we can. And we should always start with yes. Start with yes, we can. Don't look for all the reasons that it won't work. Listen, I can't stand to be a part of a team or a part of a meeting, and there's the one person that comes in with the flaming arrows to shoot every idea out of the sky. It's like they're waiting to bring in a bucket of water. As soon as you catch fire, they're waiting so they can douse you. And it's like, I don't like that. Like, no. If we get to know, that's one thing. If we work through all the scenarios, but let's start with a what if. What if we were able to do this? We don't start with the no's. Let me tell you all the reasons why we can't do that. Like, no, we'll work through them and we get all the way. Now, if we get to the end and it's just no way to do it, then okay. But we've tried it and we've worked through it because we start with yes. Nothing kills innovation faster than no. We need to be optimistic. We serve a God that's able. He can. Number 16, expect loneliness and pain. Expect loneliness and pain. I've been close enough to the top of Rock Springs Church for long enough to see that it is oftentimes a lonely and painful road. For Pastor Benny, I've been fortunate to stand behind him, and I've been able to kind of grow up behind him and allow him to take all the flaming arrows and all the darts and all the criticisms, all the anger, all the frustration, and I was the guy behind him. My hair's still dark. His is white. He took all the blows. I never forget, I was in a meeting one time and I had screwed up. I had made a mistake. It was my fault. I should have been punished. And we were in a board meeting and I was just getting raked over the coals. He was in the meeting. I was in the board meeting and I deserved it. I had made a dumb decision and done a mistake. And I was just getting called on the carpet. You know, you've been in that setting before where you just, nobody but you, it's just you. It's like, might as well lay here and take it. And I was trying to see how low I could get, just lay out on the floor and y'all just beat me to death and then I'll drag myself out of here when you're done. And I'll never forget just taking it and taking it and taking it. And finally, it couldn't have come at a more opportune moment for me. Pastor Benny took his hand and he slapped the table as hard as he could slap it. And he said, I've heard enough. He understands what he did. He's owned it. He's took responsibility, and I don't want to hear another word about it. And at that moment, it makes me emotional just thinking about it now. But I'll never forget what that meant to me because it was tough. And see, I can't tell you how many times there's been other things like that where he took the blows and all of us were protected. I can't tell you how many times. And I know that if you're on the top, you can expect some loneliness. You can expect some disappointment and some pain because you'll never be able to please everybody. And you'll often be misunderstood. He quoted Jerry Falwell in his message that he just shared, that the life that pleases God is often painful and difficult. And there'll be times in your ministry and in your life that you'll stand all alone. That you'll stand all alone. And sometimes it'll be even against the ones that are closest to you. But I would tell you, if you're not the point leader and this is all of our staff, let's look for opportunities to support our leader. Let's look, knowing that, let's look for opportunities. Like if you're gonna say something bad about Pastor Benny, you better not say it around me. I'm the wrong guy to catch. Like, cause he's gonna know about it in a millisecond and we're gonna deal with it right there. Like, it's just important for us to realize, hey, if they're taking all that heat for us, that we should stand with them. And remember, if you're the point person, the point leader, because you have to make tough decisions, you got to remember that if you're dealing with a staff member, if you need them, you can't lead them. He would always tell me, if you need them, if you're so stuck to them, you say, well, hey, I got to make a tough decision, and it's going to be difficult. It's going to be painful. But I just can't get rid of this person because it's going to be too painful. You got to remember that if you need them, you can't lead them. And you can expect loneliness and pain as a result. Number 17, be kingdom focused. Be kingdom focused. And I'm talking about the capital C church. Pastor Benny has always had a heart. He told you the story this morning. He's always had a heart for the capital C church. What can I do to help other churches? It's never been just about Rock Springs Church. He's always had the heart of doing something for somebody else, even when we didn't have anything to do for other people. We had nothing to give. We were small. We couldn't have done much. He always had an attitude of what can we do for the other churches. Look for ways to help churches. And hey, here's a thought. Look for ways to help churches that are in your community. You say, well, wait a minute. They're not in my denomination. Doesn't matter. I mean, how would they feel if you sent a $1,000 check to support the Baptist church down the street and their Lottie Moon fund? Like, well, praise God. Like, don't we believe in missions? Like, let's support them. Or what could we do if we decided we wanted to support the Assemblies of God and what they're doing, or that church, or the Presbyterian church, or find a good cause and find a church that's doing something. I'm not just talking about supporting a church that's doing nothing. Don't waste your money. But find a church that's trying to do something and find a way to support them and let your people know. We celebrate it all the time. We celebrate our people. They love to know all the churches that we're helping, all the different ministries that we support. And when they drop their $20 in the offering bag, they love to know that a part of it left this building and went to help somebody else down the road. That's what they love. And you can be a part of it. And you can be kingdom focused by looking for ways to help the capital C church. Number 18, seek God and seek the counsel of others. Never rely on your own wisdom or your own giftedness. If there's somebody I don't trust, it's me. I don't trust my own thoughts. I get in my own way. I second guess myself. I do think it's the Mexican that I had the night before. I don't know if it's God or the Mexican. And so I need the counsel of godly people. We need godly people around us. Pastor Benny, he's never made major decisions without, he's like a ping pong ball. He calls around and he's got a group of people that he'll ask, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? And he gathers all that wisdom and all the information that he can before he ever makes a major decision. And he seeks the counsel of God and seeks the counsel of others first. Proverbs 11:14 says, where there is no counsel, the people fail, but in the multitude of counselors, there's safety. Number 19, have faith. Have faith. You gotta have faith. Habakkuk 2:4 says that the just shall live how? By faith. The righteous are supposed to live by faith. We're not supposed to have it all laid out in front of us. We're not supposed to be living because we can see every step in front of us and we've got it all mapped out. You're going to live by faith because you're going to learn that we can trust God no matter what he tells us to do. That we can have faith because listen, you're never going to be 100% sure about any major decision. If it's a major decision and your church is kind of split over it and there's some for it, some against it, and you'll never be, if you wait on 100%, you'll never get there because you'll never be 100%. I tell you, if you get to 80%, that's good. That's good enough. Go right there. Because you'll never be 100% sure. Sometimes you just have to step out and do what you believe God told you to do. I've seen it over and over and over in Pastor Benny's life and in the ministry of this church where he just thought, this is what God wants us to do, and I don't care who's with me or who's not, we're doing it. And he just stepped out. And you gotta have faith and trust and believe that God's calling you to do it. Jerry Falwell said it like this. He said, sometimes you make a decision and then you make it the right decision. Sometimes you make a decision and then you make it the right decision. We got to believe God for great things. And the last thing is this, have fun. Don't forget to have fun along the way. If there's one thing Pastor Benny loves to do, he loves to laugh. And he loves to cut up, he loves to have fun. He loves to laugh with people, but he really loves to laugh at them. And all God's people said, he loves, if he finds something that bothers you or something that he can pick at you about and it really gets under your skin, he will turn those screws until the screw breaks off. He just loves it. We say he'll never forget. Like if you did something and you're embarrassed of it or something happened, he'll never forget. Like he's got a memory like an elephant and he never forgets what it was and he will always bring it up to laugh at your expense. And, but have fun. Don't take yourself so seriously. I drowned with a guy in a baptistry one time. And so, listen, I'll never get over it. They recorded it and they shared it on Facebook. It's got 20 million views. I don't even know. But don't take yourself so serious. Just be down to earth, realize you're human like everybody else, and laugh with people and laugh at yourself because you can have fun, a great fun time in ministry and in what you're doing as you serve the Lord and just enjoying the ride. So it's a great time.